Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited about today's episode. I know so many of you are going to get so much out of this because I know that I have personally shared a bit about my journey of letting go of alcohol and stopping drinking. And today I wanted to bring on an expert coach who actually specifically coaches on this. And not only is she an expert coach, but she is an amazing human being who also happens to have been a client of mine for several years now, was my student way back in the day, and she is brilliant. I have the amazing Lauree Arnold on today, and she is a stop over drinking self mastery coach who also is the founder of Unpoured Potential. So, welcome, Lauree. If you could just introduce yourself, I'm so excited to have
Oh
you
my
here.
goodness, I'm like shaking because it does feel like full circle. Yes, my name is Laurie and I am a stopover drinking coach, self-mastery. I feel like I'm one of everything. I feel like I should have tattoos all the way up my arms about what I actually do. It's been a
True.
big 5 years, right?
It's just deep healing work,
It
right?
is, it is.
Anything that'll get you there.
Oh my goodness, all the healing. And yes,
Yeah.
I really want to help people, smart, savvy women who know they are meant for more, but they kind of just get themselves stuck in these little cycles, these little runs of self-sabotage, and really just to help them heal their relationship with alcohol versus just quitting, and just really reclaim, this energy, this beautiful grounded energy that we have, all this intuition, this beautiful clarity that we kind of just, I don't know, cover over a little bit, kind of hide our brilliance, and really just to help them get their confidence back. I think most of the time when alcohol is involved, we use it to kind of get that confidence, and yeah, sometimes without it, we wonder who we are. So that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that 100%. Yeah. I'd love actually to hear more about your story and kind of your journey that led you to stop over drinking and ultimately to create Unpoured
Oh my
Potential.
goodness. Well, my coaching journey kind of started back in 2018 when my then 14-year-old daughter was in tears about myself and my ex and her dad really bad mouthing each other behind our backs. So I thought I did a really good job at hiding my contempt for him, but clearly not so much. But that week I dropped her off to the airport to head back to her dad, and I came to the car and I sat in there and I just Googled life into Spotify, and stage left, enter the Life Coach School podcast in Brook Castillo. And that 7 hour drive home, I just bathed in her goodness and just knew that this was what I wanted to do. So at first I joined Self Coaching Scholars, and it was really during that time that she challenged the narrative that I had about myself. She said this one thing: take away the one thing that you think makes you you, and see what's left. And basically,
Oh my gosh.
that was, where do you have an unhealthy obsession about something that really takes away from your life, but you might not have stopped to really realize it? Where are you buffering? Where are you blaming? Where aren't you showing up in alignment with your values? And, I really had to take a good hard look at my relationships, my finances, my career, my relationship with my daughter. And I knew that alcohol was the one unhealthy obsession that I had.
Yeah. Wow. So that started it, right? There was the insight that it was like, okay, this is the thing that I know is not serving me. So, what was that journey like? Like, you gained the insight. Did you decide right away to shift that relationship? Was it an evolution? What was the journey like for you?
It wasn't it wasn't something I was really willing to give up to start with. so so it
Yeah.
felt like someone had walked me to the cliff, and I actually had to jump, right? I had to really feel that fear. And I felt like this really was a turning point for me. And it was the first time I'd thought about my values, because I had never really questioned who I was. And I think I was asking all the wrong questions, which were really just kept me stuck in that victim mentality. Why does this keep happening
Yeah.
to me? So at first, I had to work on my relationships and the story I had about my difficult childhood with my mum. She was single, and a lot of my victim
Yep.
mentality kind of started there. So I had a lot of inner work that I had to do to really unravel much of that darkness and the beliefs I had created as truth about myself. And so when I looked at all areas of my life, most of them were, probably about a 7 out of 10. But alcohol was that one thing, was that, that was probably sitting at that 2 or 3. And then it kind of expanded to, I had what I called the big three going on. I would drink, that would lead to smoking. Then the next day I'd be
Yep.
hungover, and then I'd binge eat.
Yeah.
And so I had that pang in my gut, and I just knew that that's what I had to look at seriously. I was 42. I had been smoking and drinking since I was 15. I'd pretty much, through my 3 pregnancies, I pretty much drank, and I think most people could probably relate to this. But even when you're sick, you get to a point where, like, oh, I'll just have a couple of glasses of wine, I'll be fine, I'll just drink through it. But
Yeah.
really,
Right.
I kind of felt out of control, and I wasn't in alignment with this integrity piece of who I wanted to be. I wanted to be this life coach who lived and breathed her values. And it was something another coach said. It was, be a product of your product. And that's when it
Mm.
just felt like I have to face the storm, and I have to run into it. So,
Yeah.
so when we got back from some traveling in 2020, I decided two things. One is that I would invest in getting certified through the life coach school. That just felt like my
Yep.
next evolution. And that this would be the start of my journey to really discovering, like, who I was without alcohol. And so that's when my first 90 days began. And ironically, it actually finished with celebrating with alcohol. Like,
Oh my gosh. You're like, I got through
yay!
90 days.
So my journey,
This is how I want to celebrate.
and so, like, that's what, there's the thought error right there, or this that cycle, that
Yeah.
behavior pattern. And so my journey wasn't over. And the next
Yep.
18 months, I would really work through my own over drinking habits. But eventually, just keep circling back, right back to where I started: binge drinking, smoking, but, all of those things. And then it just turns out that the student became ready for another discovery, and that's when I decided to study advanced trauma certification with Lindsay Pullman.
Mhm.
And she really asked me
Yep.
to work on what's your stickiest relationship. I thought about my mum, and I thought about alcohol, and I thought about money, and the stickiest relationship was me. And so as we progressed
Mm.
through the training, we came to this, the internal family systems part, where we had access to
Yep.
Kathy Kinghorn, professional therapist, and oh my God, she blew my mind. And this was really where I accessed the part of me who was 15 years old and had felt like she'd been shut out. And having done a lot of inner child work with my 7-year-old self, I actually didn't realize that there was yet another voice who wanted a seat at the table. And it turned out, like, once I gave her that voice back, she wasn't misunderstood. She didn't actually want to be rebellious. She just wanted to be loved. And because no one listened, she used drinking as a
Yeah.
way for people to love her. And she was the fun one, the party animal, the cool one, the pretty one, the one who just wanted to be noticed. So this is really
Yep.
where my identity began to shift. And in 2022 November, I woke up with my heart beating out of my chest after this really fun Guns N' Roses concert that we've been to. But I'd been drinking way
Yeah.
too many premixed drinks. And
Yep.
I woke up, and the thought of being 45 and still drinking like I was 21, I woke up and just said, I am done. And so it's
Yeah.
been
Wow.
964 days, 2 year,
Yes, Lori.
2 years,
Amazing.
7 months, 20 days. And for the best part of this, I've learned to become this version of me, who tried so long to, like, hold on to this identity, and eventually became like, I just don't have that identity of being a drinker anymore. And it's just one of those holy shit
Yeah.
moments.
Yes. How does that feel?
uh, so it's funny, I was actually just checking my little app, 964 days, and I'm like, yeah, why do I keep looking at that number? Why does that number matter so much? And I think it is just a huge celebration of myself, just to remind myself how far I've come.
Yeah. Huge, huge. Oh my gosh, there's so much that like I want to dive into within that story and that journey. It's so beautiful. Um I think the first piece I want to dive into is how you mentioned you went through 90 days initially, right? And then you celebrated with the 90 days with the drink. And I think that's so common, not only in stopping over drinking, but any habit change, anything in our life that we're trying to shift. Like, I think sometimes our brain expects it to be all or nothing, right? It's like, I'm either perfect at this thing or I'm failing at it. So I'm wondering because sometimes when things like that happen, right, where it's like we went through a period and then we gave into it again, right? It can be so easy to shame ourselves or beat ourselves up or to create a story. I could never do this, right? I mean, I see this all the time in coaching. I'm curious how you held that in a way in which allowed you to keep going and keep trying for it.
Just that values piece for me, it was, and it was actually something you taught me through certification, and it's that bridge I am learning to become. That
Mm,
was the most impactful part, is that I could really lean into compassion with myself versus, trying to really force myself to do it. And even with the
yeah.
internal family systems, it was compassion. It was compassion and curiosity that got me through it. It wasn't discipline. It wasn't motivation. I
Yeah.
suppose I was motivated, but it was motivated to be in alignment with my goals. It wasn't actually about the
Yeah.
outcome.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Amazing. So you were focused on who you wanted to become, who you were stepping into, and it was just a practice of
Yeah,
that.
and it was just that alcohol
Beautiful.
piece was
Yeah.
just a story, right? A story. Oh my gosh, it
Yeah.
literally it was truth. It was like this
Yeah.
armor that I had just created for myself, and of course it just morphed into, you know, 30 years of basically high functioning drinking. And I never really identified with being an alcoholic, but I suppose that's just kind of part of the denial process. Is that I think if I'd actually been to see a therapist, they probably would have said, "Girlfriend,
Yeah.
you more than
Yeah.
likely are."
Right. Yes.
And
Me too.
and what's the shame in that? What's the shame in that?
Yeah.
There is no shame
Yeah.
in that. Like, you're
Yeah.
here, you're doing the work,
100%.
you're acknowledging it, you're accepting who you are,
Yep.
all your flaws, all your glory, and you're here to do the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. What I also found so beautiful about your story and so fascinating is that you had mentioned thinking about, do I want to work in my relationship with alcohol? But then what felt more resonant was, oh no, it's about working on my relationship with
Mm.
myself. And I'm so curious. I know you have a process that you take people through who want to cut back on drinking, stop over drinking. Is that a piece of it? Or can you walk us through some of the maybe things that people don't recognize that they may need to work on or look at if they want to stop the habit, which most people think that they just need to focus on the willpower and not drinking and not picking it up. But what are some of the other things that people
Mm.
usually have to look at within in order to stop?
Well, I suppose, like, ever since you created your soulful six-figure mastermind, I've kind of always resonated with that word soul. And it's like it got me out
Yeah.
of my head and into my body.
Mm.
And, high achiever, always been in my head. Like, my ego just wants to drive the show. Um, and it's not always comfortable to start with. Like, when you haven't learned anything about emotions, like, that's not how I grew up. I didn't grow up knowing about emotional intelligence and all this, and that emotions
Yeah.
actually drive you to act a certain way. Um, I think that that piece there was coming back into using techniques that brought you back to you. So that parts work was part of that process as well. Was, one part that controls this part of you and the ego part, and then the other part of you that really believes something different. I just noticed that I couldn't always think my way through something. Like, it felt like there was this complete black hole, this space in my brain, and nothing was going to allow me to move any further until I had created some. And what I didn't understand was my brain was looking for safety, and going to that place where there was no alcohol was not safe for me. And so that's
Yeah.
where that kind of that trauma informed piece, that work there, that I really wanted to lean into, the healing versus quitting. And so always trying to approach it through thought wouldn't work, wouldn't always work for me. So some things I could, I could set a goal and have thought work, and it would work perfectly. And
Yep.
but this with this one, it just felt different. It felt very heavy. It felt very, I suppose, if you've done IFS work, it's that protective layer. And so I thought, well, what if we could approach it from bottom up and learn to really ground into our bodies, learn to reconnect through our soul, and
Yeah.
not be so hard on our ego, right? And I know that the ego is, it's always a driver of our thoughts, and but has lots of
Yeah.
thought errors, like thinking that letting go of alcohol is the pain, versus letting
Yeah.
alcohol, like letting go of alcohol, is being able to actually access more pleasure. But we just have to create the evidence of
Yes.
it as we go. Hence why I
Yes.
created what I call the soul method, and it's all about
Yeah.
seeing the protector, like really meeting her and bringing herself, like yourself, back into your life as an ally. Most women try to stop drinking by fighting the habit, but the habit can be the
Yeah.
protector. And it's just about building emotional safety, creating understanding versus that resistance. And when you can see alcohol use not as a, it was a coping strategy. It's not a character flaw. It's not who we
Yeah.
are. And I think that's the process. Yeah,
Totally.
that's the process of where the healing can really start to begin, is when we start to access those parts of ourselves. And then, so that's the S part. And then O is really
Yeah.
about where we then bring into the mindset. So we open the mind, we look at rewiring some of the beliefs that keep us, that keep alcohol really tied to success, tied to stress relief, tied to connection, and to that control. I think that control that the ego wants, and it's not about craving alcohol. It's craving what it actually represents. It's that relief, the escape, the ease, the fun.
Yes.
And until you really
Yep.
challenge that belief that alcohol gives you something you need, that desire kind of stays stuck. So it's just
Totally.
about reprogramming that, that mental story that drinking is required to either function, to perform, or to relax, and deconstructing those beliefs to be able to explore unconscious narratives, using things like journaling,
Yeah.
meditation, all
Yep.
those beautiful things, EFT tapping, all those beautiful, beautiful healing modalities.
Totally.
And then
Yep. 100%.
yeah, and then the U part, so is all about upgrading. So, like I said, you cannot outthink your nervous system. You cannot always think yourself through a thought. So when stress builds up in the body,
Yep.
and the only way it knows how to release, right, and that release valve often is our wine, or our go-to wine, or our go-to rum and coke. That was Lauree's like favorite. You'll just end up defaulting back to where you were, no matter how smart you think you are. You cannot outsmart
Yeah.
that. And so this is where you really want to bring in new sustainable stress management tools that actually work for high functioning women, because remember, it's not actually about how much we're drinking, it's about why
Yep.
we're drinking. And so really bringing in some of those breathwork practices, somatic practices for, those
Yeah.
in the moment kind of urges. What's going on for us that creates the urge to drink, and really starting to notice where we lean on it to
Yeah.
either buffer the emotion, or, yeah, what we're avoiding telling ourselves.
Yeah. It's like coming up with, also what I'm hearing is like new strategies that can replace what we need, which is that feeling of safety, or our nervous system feeling more regulated, which normally if we go to alcohol, that's the thing. So finding new tools and techniques to replace it, so powerful.
It
Yeah,
is. It's
amazing.
just, it makes all the difference in the world. And again,
Yeah.
it's that really nurturing feminine kind of energy versus that really heavy, like strategy masculine kind of push, push, push. It's a different.
Yeah.
In my head, I see it as a different kind of power. And
Yeah.
then the last part is the L. Really leading, becoming self-led as the person you want to become. So, I mean, lasting change is identity based. You teach
Yeah.
that in, money manifestation about identity and who we're showing up as and what we want to create for ourselves is stepping into that identity as a 50K coach, as a 100K coach, as a $1 million
Yeah.
coach. So this particular phase isn't just about not drinking, it's about becoming the version of you who naturally makes different choices because she's no longer actually needing to escape her life. It's about navigating events, their social pressure, work culture, really embodying of, anchoring in that new identity of I am learning to become the person that no longer needs alcohol to feel clear, to feel
Yeah.
confident, to feel grounded, and this is the best version of myself, alcohol free. Whether it's for 90 days or whether
Yeah.
it's longer term. So this is really
Yeah.
where you learn to become her without shaming yourself into submission. Yeah, we really
Yes.
get to, get
Huge.
comfortable with deciding what feels right for our body and love our reasons for choosing who we are learning to become.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And what have you seen within yourself and within your clients? What have you noticed the after being? Like what are you surprised about as being a non-drinker? Like what has that opened up for you?
I think many of my clients have actually kind of had big aha moments like, oh wow, I didn't realize I had a choice. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that this was something I could do. I thought it was possible for other people. I think that's a
Yeah.
big one is telling ourselves that we
That's
like,
huge.
oh, this is
Wow.
always who I've been. I couldn't possibly not know.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's especially like I think about one of my clients and she's in the corporate is just noticing how much of a culture we've actually built around drinking. Like we weren't
Yeah.
born drinking. We did not come out of the womb drinking.
So true. Yes.
And so
Yeah.
we've really taken on this culture of drinking. I think they did the same with smoking. They tried to tell people in the 50s
Yeah.
and 60s that that's totally healthy. It's no problem,
Yeah.
And we're going to advertise it as
Yep.
mum's at the kitchen with her penny on, cooking dinner for the kids while
Yep.
having a cigarette in her hand, like.
Totally. Totally. Now it's replaced with wine.
Exactly, it totally is. And I
Yeah.
even think about, I don't know if you've watched the series Mad Men, and
Yes.
they always use alcohol. Like they're in business meetings and they pour a drink, and then they're
Yep.
angry and they drink, and then they're sad and then they drink, and when we're around those environments that we see all the time, we just think it's normal, and our brain starts to think it's normal too. So that's why
Yeah.
so many people won't quit or won't struggle with it either even 30 days or 60 days is that we just don't
Totally.
want to be, it's human nature, right? We don't want to be the ones on the outside. We don't want to be exiled. And so therefore, a
Yeah.
lot of people, even one drink can be over drinking to some people because they feel
Yep.
forced into doing it. They feel obligated by by
Yep.
their environment. So it's really unpacking, some of those cultural beliefs that we have, or that have been created, that drinking is
Yeah.
normal.
Totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I had to do so much work around that myself when I quit drinking. And now I'm just so grateful that I've done it. But that was challenging. That was definitely a challenge, was like, where do I stand with certain friendships and things and groups without
Mm,
this? Like, who am I? Am I the boring friend
mm,
now? I used to be the wild
mm.
friend? So I can completely relate to that. And it's a reconfiguration. But on the other side, it is so much better. I'm so grateful I've done that work.
It is like you get to
So
meet so
I'm
many
curious.
different
Yeah.
people. You meet
Yeah.
so many different people. You end up with new friendships and new connections.
Yep.
And yes, some of those old friends are still there, and the relationship just shifts slightly, right?
It just shifts. It's so true. Yes, 100%. That's what I have noticed. I'm no longer the crazy wild one, but I am grounded and it's shifted. It's still good. It's just different than it used to
Yeah,
be.
and that's that safety that our body wants. It wants like it doesn't want to vibrate
Yeah,
with nervousness. It doesn't want to vibrate with anxiousness. It
totally.
it just wants to be
Yeah.
calm and steady. And so
Yes.
it's a learning period where we have to create
Yeah.
safety in our bodies.
It was fun at 21, but it's not fun
Yeah.
now. It's just not cute anymore.
Well, what was not cute for me was feeling like at 45, 42 or 45 or however old I was, is waking up hungover, feeling just
Yeah.
like, I always say this to my clients, I just always felt like ass. And
Yeah.
and smiling through it and saying, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm not even that hungover," and yet secretly just dying on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my turning point too. I realized life is too important and too special. I don't want to wake up another day feeling like this. That was like a turn. I was like, because, it started impacting me
Mm.
differently when I was younger. I could get up and just move on from the day or whatever. I might have felt like crap, but it was fine. And then as I got older, I was like, no, I just can't do this. It feels absolutely terrible. And it's not worth it to take a whole day out of my life. So I'd love to hear, because I know you work with a lot of high achievers and high achieving women who are functioning just fine, or they seem to be. But what would you say are some signs that alcohol might still be holding someone back, even if their life looks good on the outside?
Mm. I think, when you're dragging yourself out of bed multiple times a week, that could be one sign.
Yeah.
I think too, our soul just feels empty. It just feels like there is something missing and there is something more. We just don't know what that looks
Mhm.
like. And it's almost this fear of not letting that go. But in actual fact, the fear is stronger on what are we actually missing out on. And I
Yeah.
think that's an interesting piece there, is like we secretly know. There's just that dip in your
Yeah.
heart. There's that,
Yeah.
I think you're wishing and you're hoping and you're dreaming, but it's just that taking that first step is the scary part.
Yeah.
I also think if you feel
Totally.
like you're doing, the heavy lifting in a relationship, I think sometimes that
Yeah.
you can use alcohol to mask a lot of the relationship stuff that goes on. Same as
Mm.
relationships with money.
Yep.
I think it can show up as, not really allowing yourself to ask for the support that you need. So again, it's not about that why, how many we're drinking, but why we're drinking. And it's
Yep.
maybe no one's listening to you. Why aren't they listening to you? What aren't you saying? What voice aren't you bringing to the table? What do you
Yeah.
want to say? And I think there's a lot of that goes on as we just keep ourselves quiet. We keep it to ourselves. We're a little bit scared to dream big for fear of what
Yeah.
people think. This is like, that's a dumb idea. Don't do
Yeah.
it.
Right.
I
Yep.
also think that, if we feel like we are at the mercy of other people around us, like it feels like it's always someone else's fault.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
And I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of that kind of finger pointing blame that goes on. It's like, well, you drink too. You could, you could stop. Like I think about my
Yeah.
husband. You could stop. You should stop with me. But then what we're doing is we're
Yeah.
just handing kind of that responsibility over to the other person and saying, well, if you start drinking again, that gives me permission, and then kind of becomes your fault. So I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
dynamic as well. Um,
Yeah.
but like on
That's
the
good.
outside, everything does look fine. I think about myself. I had a six-figure job, a wonderful husband. We just built a
Yep.
house. But on the inside, I really felt like there was just something missing from my life, and so I just wanted that more. I didn't want to rock the boat, and
Mm.
and the thought of asking for more felt wrong. And so
Yeah.
the I'm fine story
Yeah.
became just, that's what it is. That's the belief, I'm fine. But yet secretly, I was
Yeah.
really just drowning in my own pity party because I felt so powerless to making change, and worried
Yeah.
about I suppose, the ripple effects of that, which is just a thought
Yeah.
error. Like, what if the ripple effect was completely different? What if the ripple effect was better?
Right. Totally. And that touches on, I was wondering, what are some of the most common kind of mindset
Mm,
blocks that stop people from taking their step in doing this work and cutting back or stopping drinking? And you definitely touched on some of them, that I'm fine and not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting, I mean, it's scary to do this kind of work and to dive into the unknown, especially if you've been drinking like since you were 15. Same here. That's when I started. I was
mm,
young. So it can be scary to be, who am I without
mm.
that, right? And so any other mindset blocks that you see that prevent people from taking that step?
I think the thought everyone else is drinking, And I think most people wouldn't probably recognize that as a thought.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Like, no, that's true.
yeah, that's so true. And it is. People are drinking. However, it is not always the truth. Um,
Yep.
I need it to fit in. What will
Hmm.
people think if I
Yep.
stop drinking? Will
Yep.
I ruin my relationship? And I know these are all questions, right? And
Mm.
there are thoughts that are
Yep.
attached to those questions.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think the thought that life will be no fun without alcohol. What will I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah!
That was mine. I'm like, I don't know. I'm an introvert without alcohol. It's what brings me out of my shell.
Ah, yeah, and then the question, will I feel awkward without a drink in my hand?
Yeah.
But really, all
Yeah.
we're just avoiding discomfort. We're avoiding,
Totally.
yeah.
100%. Mine was like, could I dance at a party without alcohol? Or like not at a party, at a wedding? That was my thing. How am I going to be able to dance without alcohol? I'm only good at dancing if I
I
drink.
must admit, we went to a wedding even just 12 months ago,
Yeah.
and my husband actually doesn't drink anymore either, which was a super celebration for us because we met drinking,
Yeah.
and always we were like drinking buddies. But yeah, we went to this wedding. He was the best man, and so I had to spend quite a bit of time on my own. And then we got to the dance floor because everyone else, they got up into this big dance, and I literally felt like I had two left feet. I could not figure out how to dance in public.
Uh-huh. I know. I remember this when I first quit too. I was like forcing myself to get up there and I was like, I feel weird and it's okay. This is what dancing sober feels like. Like I had to learn to do it and now I can like let loose and have so much fun, but it definitely took time to like learn how to not feel completely awkward. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was my first kind of bridge thought was like I feel awkward and it's okay. I'm learning how to do this sober, So similar.
Uh,
So, yes, but it can become fun. It's just a practice.
it honestly is.
So
It's like, babies don't learn
it
how to
is.
how to run until they can learn how to
Yep.
walk until they have to crawl
Yep.
first. So even when this feels like crawling, it's okay. We will get there. And it really is just that process. And I think, even with manifestation, it's not about the actual achievement of the goal. It's who you learn to become along the way. And that for me always resonates. I just got to remember, like, even though I haven't achieved the goal, it's not always that is the thing.
Yeah.
It is who I learn to
Yep.
become along the way.
Yeah. So good. So, what would be some mindset shifts that you would want to offer people who are in some of those questions? Who would I be without it? Am I going to feel awkward? Everyone around me drinks. What are some new perspectives that might be eye opening for people that maybe you've taken on or have been thoughts that have been helpful for you? Can you think of
I
any?
think I think again it just comes back to, sorry Jamie, I lost my train of thought there. I was thinking two things.
No, you're fine.
Um, I think the goal is that thought, who I am learning to become, or I am learning to become. That for me has
Yeah.
just been a game changer.
Yeah. So good.
And then I
Yeah.
think also bringing shame to the table. Bring shame to the table.
Yeah.
Bring him to the table. Bring him to the table, because shame cannot. I think Brene Brown says it the best. Empathy is the antidote to shame, and so when we bring the shame to
Yeah.
the table, it doesn't like the light. It can't
Yeah.
exist in the light. So if we bring
Yeah.
shame, because most of us have it, and even sometimes I think about 5 years ago and kind of still cringe about doing a cartwheel and doing some ridiculous things. There is still shame attached to that, and I just have to keep
Yeah.
reminding me that it's okay. It doesn't have to be heavy.
Yeah.
I am now in control of this. My ego's not in control of it, but my body is in control of who we are learning to become. And it's just about having that
Yeah.
relationship with yourself, right? Not avoiding having
Yeah.
those conversations. Like, it's again a bit like money conversations and drinking conversations.
Yep.
Is what are we avoiding? And if we can't have an honest conversation with ourselves first and foremost, it's never
Yeah.
going to change.
Yeah.
we're gonna be
Totally.
stuck there, and we're gonna hand over all this power to money. We're
Yeah.
gonna hand over all this power to
Yeah.
alcohol, and really we just know that if we just pull back the covers and allow the numbers just to be numbers and not make it a drama, then that means that we just open up so much more space to actually be able to do the work
Yeah.
and
Yes.
receive the teachers. I
Amazing.
think too, receive the teachers that are here to help us.
Yes. Ooh, say more about that.
Well, I think about you, my friend. Like, Brooke Castillo walks into my door. Hello, life changing. You walk into my
Yeah.
door. I mean, you guys are all unforgettable. You walk into my door. 5 years later, I'm still circling back, coming to do your work because of wholesale, how you showed up, who you are, and who you became along your journey, right? Um, from
Yeah.
the PCOS coach to Jamie Burr Money to
Yes.
the manifestation
Yeah.
queen. I mean, all the things.
Many becomings.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
and then I've had a ripple effect. I think you introduced me to Mike Dooley, so I did some of his. I
Yeah.
became an IPI, what they call an IPI, Infinite Possibilities coach. Um,
Yes.
Uh,
I love
I even
him.
think about the book It Is Done by Richard Dotts. That one landed.
Yep.
I've given that out to so many friends to read. Um, and then I think about Lindsay and Kathy Kinghorn, Lindsay Coleman, and the work that she does around that trauma informed space. Like
Yes.
that just cracked everything open. And then it was like, all these teachers just kept getting put in front of me. And so even though my
Yeah.
focus was, I want to build this 100K business or 250K business, it was never about
Yep.
that. My ego
Yeah.
was just so attached to it though. And sometimes it still is. I
Yeah.
really have to check in.
Yep.
It is all. If I hadn't have learnt all these things, if these teachers hadn't shown up, I wouldn't be here speaking to you. I wouldn't have given up drinking. I wouldn't have changed my
Yeah.
relationship. I wouldn't have done a lot of things. And so you teach this in manifestation. It's about, if I give up, what do I get?
Yep. Yep.
How about what if I give this a shot? And what do I allow myself to receive?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much because I just recorded, it'll probably come out the week prior to when this one comes out, but I just recorded a podcast episode on are all manifestations supposed to complete and the timing of them.
Mm,
And what's really fascinating about desire, like you just said, if you didn't actually have that 100K or 250K business desire, like maybe that desire wasn't just meant to make that manifest right away. It was supposed to lead, like cracked open everything
mm,
for you. Like you quit over drinking, you learned how to love yourself, you've shifted relationships in your life, and you also have blown up your career and you've also created the business. Like there's so much more that you created thanks to that desire that you kept going for. Had it just
mm,
manifested overnight, you wouldn't have done all of this. So it's so beautiful and it is done, right? So it's like that desire is still going to complete, but the gifts that it's given you along the way, oh my God. And then the other point with that is like, I do believe, I know there's that classic saying when the student's ready, the
mm,
teacher appears, and you have the courage to say yes to the
mm,
teachings, right? And say yes to receiving them. And that's everything. And I feel like you are such a, not I feel like, I know from the day that I met you, you are such a powerhouse. Like I've always felt you. I've always felt your energy from the first call we had in certification to now. And I know what a brilliant coach, teacher, instructor, healer you are. And I know you're the perfect support and teacher for the person who wants to let go of alcohol. And so if you'd be open to sharing more about, how you work with people, where they can find you, I just feel like that's another full circle is like, I'm just excited to send everyone to you who wants to work on this because the truth is like, I just don't believe in DIYing this kind of
Mm.
stuff. This is soul work. It's so much deeper than I just need willpower, and it will change your life forever. Going after the dream of not even the dream, going after the desire to stop alcohol will open up so much for people. I know it has for me. I've seen your journey. And so, yeah, if you could share more about how you work with people, where they can find you.
So I'm just going through a rebrand. So at the moment. Instagram is my place to find me. I mean, I'm on
Yeah.
Facebook as well, but mostly Instagram at lifecoach_Lauree. That will probably go through a little bit of an evolution over the next coming weeks or months, but that's the space to find me. I just do one-to-ones at the moment, so I don't do anything group, mostly because I am in a full-time career, as you just mentioned. I love my job, love,
Yeah.
love, love, and so I just want to hold space, like as a private immersion for women that really want to do this work. I don't. I'm high touch. I don't have lots of clients. I work with three at the most at a
Yeah.
time. That
Yeah.
gives me space to continue my healing journey, and it gives
Yeah.
them space to really immerse themselves in the process of who they are learning to become as well. So you can just find me on Instagram
Yeah.
for now. Over time, it'll evolve, right?
Yeah. Yes, we'll link that up in the show notes for sure. Definitely follow Lauree. Her work is so good. She's a brilliant coach. As someone who might have certified her, I can say that,
Oh my gosh, it's the
which is
best.
so fun. Oh my God. Thank you, Lauree. You're the best. I'm so happy we did this episode, and I'm so grateful I got to have you
Oh
on.
my gosh, it's been the most amazing experience. Thank you so much. And thank you, the universe, for
Yeah,
bringing me Jamie.
right. Aw.